love the idea of having a play date and having something to do with my hands. So we sit there and talk. Now we just sit there and drink iced coffees and chase our 500 children around.
Right. Memories of my grandpa praying out loud for all his grandchildren, which I think is really special. But it's not something that like old order Mennonites talk about.
But yeah, I just remember walking in the door as a kid and smelling that roast beef and knowing you're just about to have the best meal of the week.
Amen.
Should be in our religion, right?
I will say the first juror that was called, he looked delighted. So I'm like, okay, well, glad that there's some people that actually want to do this. We're scared of the trends at first, and then we see them long enough that they become the norm, and then we'll start to adapt them, and then
for good or bad.
Yeah, and then like they're gone, and we're just a couple of years behind. We'll eventually do it. We say we won't, but we eventually will. Oh, Megan. So last week on Tuesday, I had the worst day. I had to go to jury duty at Berks County Courthouse, and I was dreading it. I knew I would hate it. And Eric's like, oh, it might be interesting. And I said, no, it's not going to be interesting. I'm going to hate it. And sure enough, I hated every single minute. Every single minute, I hated it.
Why? You could bring your book. You could sit there. You could people watch. That sounds like the funnest thing.
I just, like, they ask you questions. And so I second guess every question that's asked. Like, I don't want to accidentally tell a lie. So
because they have all your research and Google data and everything.
Because I'm under oath and I don't want to misrepresent who I am. I don't want to violate my conscience. I'm totally overthinking it, and I probably have some form of religious OCD, but it was just so stressful for me. And then they told us pretty soon in the beginning that this case was expected to last almost 2 weeks.
Oh,
and right, I almost cried. I'm like, if I get selected, they did not want me on their jury. Like, trust me, they did not want me on their jury. But I was like, 2 weeks coming here every day. So I said, I had a hardship. I have little children that I need to get on the bus and off the bus, and some of them aren't in school full time.
They consider that a hardship? Like, I know breastfeeding kids, they do.
You can say whatever you want. Some people were like, I'm a hairstylist and my clients need their haircut and I need to make money. I mean,
oh, really?
Yeah, like you can say whatever you want, and then it's up to the judge's discretion to excuse you or not. And I don't know if
Did most people try to get out of it?
A lot did. After they heard it was 2 weeks, like so many people stood, and then they went through and heard everyone's reason. And I didn't stand at first because I was like, I can make this work. And then when I saw how many people stood and the judge was like, does anyone else want to stand? I popped up so quick because I'm like, there's no way all of these people have a better excuse than my children. Uh-huh. So I did stand. And I don't know if I was ultimately excused or just not chosen. But anyway. And then the courtroom, there's just like no room. Okay, I'll just tell a story. So they were asking if you or a family member had experience with amputation.
You yourself have.
And right, so this is like a crisis of conscience for me because yes, I have had an amputation, but I'm standing here with 2 arms and legs, and they're gonna think I'm lying to get out of it, but I have had an amputation. I had an extra thumb when I was born, and they amputated it. And like, that is so beside the point. Like, that is not why they were asking. I don't even remember it. I don't have a bias against a surgeon who did, that's not why they're asking. So I didn't stand, but I'm like, well, now I'm a liar. I'm sitting here lying about this amputation. But like, that's so not the point. But it would have been the perfect opportunity to make a joke, right? Like, it would have been hilarious.
Yeah.
But the courtroom is no room.
3 thumbs up for me.
Yeah. The courtroom is no room for jokes, no room for personality, no room for anything fun. And that, I think, is ultimately why I hated it.
Oh, there was not enough creativity in there for
No,
you.
there's no creativity, and it's just stressful. And, well, for all the above reasons that I mentioned, I hated it. I got a little teary when my name was not called at the end.
Praise the Lord.
Like I said, they did not want me on their jury. But I think if I would have got selected for the case, the coming days probably would have been more interesting than the first day of the lawyers back and forth trying to pick their jury. I'm sure it would have been more interesting, but I guess if I want to observe court drama, I'd rather do it from the couch on the TV than that real life stuff. It was just not for me. I just kept thinking I do not belong here.
Yeah, well, the church I came from, actually, you were supposed to try to get out of it at all costs and have a religious exemption for it because of, we would never want to condemn somebody to death. That's only God can take life. But I don't know how that applies to like a traffic court violation.
Well, this was a civil suit. It wasn't a criminal case. So that's not a valid reason to come out.
Personally, I feel like I would not ever bear arms, anything like that. But I can help be a good, upstanding citizen by, being a level head in the courtroom, possibly. Although I'm very glad I've never been called. Praise the Lord. I'm not campaigning for that position at all. I feel like, yes, I could not say I have a religious exemption for a case that's just like small like that.
Yeah, I just went over it and over. I'm like, should I get out of this? And I was like, the Bible says submit to the government, respect the government, give the government what it's asking for unless it violates the Bible. And I cannot see any reason why it would violate the Bible. So that's why I went along with it in the first place. And I was like, well, and if the case is 1 to 3 days, like I never imagined that they would be asking for 2 weeks of your time. Like,
I know.
That's
it's
insane.
Amazing.
I will say the first juror that was called, he looked delighted. So I'm like, okay, well, glad that there's some people that actually want to do this because I want to go home so bad.
Well, I'm glad you're here tonight because if you were on jury duty, you would probably not be here. Glad you're here.
Oh, me too.
Anyway, today's topic is before we get into it, I guess we should do our Homemaker Helper. But today's topic is just one that you guys really found interesting and fun the last time we did this. So we're going to revisit it and we're going to point out little Mennonitisms or little contradictions in our culture or just fascinating little things that you might be wondering about yourself. Like, why in the world? Anyway, so this will be a good topic. But before we get into that, let's do our Homemaker Helper.
Hey Megan and Jayna, I have a topic for you to talk about in your next video. My girls are already 5 and 6, and although I have taken a million pictures, I don't have many videos at all. Do you have any advice on how to make home videos and ensure that they are quality? I need help.
Definitely take the videos. I have nothing of myself till I was like 12 and my siblings till it was about that age. And that's when I was given a camera and I learned how to videotape or whatever. And it's just so fun to look back on. Like, you will not regret the videos that you have. As far as quality, just remember quality is not crazy important. I mean, in fact, as the years go on, the graininess might become like trendy or nostalgic, kind of like, people are with their point and shoot cameras nowadays and everything. But you do want to try to do your best, obviously. I think one of the best tips is when you're taking your video, do you want it on your computer screen to look at? Yes or no? Like, do you want it up and down for Instagram or left and right? You have to think about your orientation. And then while you have your video going, I would say a good tip, I use this constantly. Start recording your kid doing, like, I was just trying to get Baylor to smile today, so I was recording. And then you can simultaneously take pictures while it's recording. So you can get pictures and video at the exact same time. You don't have to just pick one or the other. So definitely use that feature. And then as far as quality, I mean, our phones can do almost as good as cameras nowadays, but lighting is going to be an issue. Definitely if you're trying to take a video and it's dark, tap on the subject and that will brighten them up, and the background will get really blown out and really white, but it'll also brighten up your subject that you're trying to take a video of. So that's something that, like, lighting is pretty important. Sound, I mean, you're going to get what you're going to get. There's not much you can do with that. Just make sure your finger's not like over figure out where your microphone is. Make sure your finger's not over it. And also teach your children how to use a camera or your phone or whatever. I just say your phone, but you can definitely get a camcorder or something. I just don't have experience with that. And I would never lug around my big old camera just for like home videos and stuff. I feel like your phone, when something's happening in the moment, your phone's usually the first thing to grab. I don't know. Do you have any tips beyond that?
Clean your lenses.
Oh yeah, for sure.
That's my only tip.
And if you want to be in the shot yourself, you can get, like, I have on here a suction cup thing that you can just like smash up against the side of the wall or something, and it could just film on the forward facing camera, and you could be in the shot with your kids if you want to. I use that feature a lot too for like taking family pictures. I'll just have it videotaping and then I'll get a still shot. I'll grab a still shot from there because getting everybody looking at once is an act of God.
I got a really cheap tripod on Amazon and it comes with like the clicker. And it folds out really small. It hardly takes up any space, but it's just kind of nice to have if I do want to get like an actual decent photo.
They are asking about video. True. I just remembered too. But yeah, exactly.
I think it all applies.
Yeah. I mean, and keep practicing.
Yeah. Don't let the fear of not having a good quality video stop you from taking the video in the first place.
Yes. And as far as storage, because video does take up a lot of space, I would say you should all consider starting your own little private YouTube channel. I upload to my own channel our Christmas every year just so we can look back on it later if we want. There's like zero editing. I literally plop the camera up on a stand, and if I want to change angles, I take the camera around and change it, and it's recording that whole time. It's literally a home video. It's no production at all. And it's so fun to look back on and just see how the kids have grown every year. So yeah, you can store your videos on YouTube for your family. Just make sure it's on the private setting and you'll be fine. There's other ways to store things too, but yeah, that's just one free option.
Cool.
Anyway, that was quite the random homemaker helper. But if you'd like to ask a question, we'll try to take our perspective on it. Think of it like a Dear Abby column.
Yeah.
The more details, the better,
But not too long. I got one that's really interesting, but it's so long I could never read it all. So try to keep it brief so that we can read it
as possible. But yeah, DM us on Honey I'm Homemaker on Instagram, and that's where we'll see it. I mean, you could put it in the comment section of this video, but then everybody's going to see it.
Yeah.
That's your choice.
We'll look there too.
So growing up, my dad was huge into bluegrass, and my mom would always make fun of it because of the, nasal singing or whatever. But
Yeah.
I still love bluegrass to this day because it's just nostalgic, but it has to be the instrumental bluegrass. Like, I still can't stand that nasally twang or whatever. And I saw that VOETBERG Music Academy, actually, most of the instruments that they teach are bluegrass-oriented, kind of country-oriented, because they do piano, mandolin, ukulele, and
Fiddle.
fiddle. Yes. Music lessons don't need to be expensive, boring, or stressful, and you don't even need to leave your home. VOETBERG Music Academy offers online lessons that siblings can share. Instead of dragging one kid to lessons and paying hundreds of dollars a month for one student, waiting in the waiting room, all that stuff, use our code HOMEMAKER20 to get 20% off every month your child is learning piano, fiddle, guitar, mandolin, or ukulele. Actually, Josh even uses VOETBERG Music Academy. He's learning to play guitar slowly but surely, which is great because it's customizable to your speed. Just go to VOETBERGmusicacademy.com, and for less than $30 a month, you can get weekly lessons and practice printables, 24/7 access to your instructor, live student onboarding calls, and video vaults that provide dozens of extra lessons for students who want to progress faster.
With VOETBERG Music Academy, you will never have to nag your children to practice as they work toward earning badges on their success path and performing for community student showcases. Use our code HOMEMAKER20 to get 20% off every month you are enrolled and give your children a lifelong love of music at VOETBERGmusicacademy.com.
There you go. Teach your child another language, except it's melody. Melodic.
Melodious.
And hey, you could get famous off of it eventually.
Go for it.
You always have to wonder, like, how those famous singers, they start out really small and...
Yeah, like who was Taylor Swift's guitar teacher?
Yeah, Taylor Swift was our neighbor at one point,
Yeah. I read something about her guitar teacher being in Reading. I mean, she grew up in Reading.
Yeah.
I read something about something he was saying. I forgot what it was.
Yeah. You never thought about
You never know.
You could have ran into Taylor Swift at Kohl's on Black Friday and you never would have known.
Never would have known.
Anyway.
That's all we're going to say about Taylor Swift, so don't even ask. I don't know if a lot of these are going to be Mennonite specific or Lancaster County specific or Christian specific or Pennsylvania specific, but the point is that these are things that shaped us, things that we've heard about from our grandparents, or things that are normal life to us that we're wondering if they're normal life to other people. But we're not saying that everything is exclusive to Mennonites, but it's just things that we think are interesting and things that are a part of our life.
And if you're wondering why are they so weird, maybe this will give you some answers.
Exactly.
So we were just we both independently made our own lists, and we're just gonna rattle through these, and we will do some explanations. But yeah, my first one is brown butter. Do you guys cook with brown butter? It's like the main staple of Mennonite cooking. It is the one seasoning we use besides salt and pepper and maybe some saffron.
Yeah, I have actually seen brown butter creeping into more like mainstream recipes. I think Half Baked Harvest has like a brown butter cookie recipe,
Is
or
it
someone.
burnt butter or brown butter?
It said brown butter. Like I've been seeing it.
We
and
are
not
trendsetters and didn't even try it.
Yeah, I mean, we did it first.
Yes, if you want to just dip your toe into the brown butter scene, I have two ways that I recommend. One is to brown your butter and then let it cool and chill in the fridge and use it in cookies. Mm-hmm. So like chocolate chip cookies with browned butter. The way you make brown butter is pretty straightforward. You just put your butter in. I like to do a cast iron skillet on, I would say, medium. Yeah. And then as soon as it melts into complete liquid, stop, stay right there, don't move, and keep stirring it as the golden color will slowly get browner and browner. And then when it's brown, you pull it off. Don't let it get black, and make sure you're moving it so that it doesn't. And I mean, sometimes I've forgotten to stir it and it was still okay. But for the most part, I would say keep it moving so the bottom doesn't get black. And yeah, pull it off and you're good to go. Right then and there, if it's still warm, I like to pour it over potatoes or noodles. That's like the best.
Rice Krispies.
Oh, yes.
So
you have
good.
an amazing Rice Krispie recipe. Use the recipe on the box, right?
I think so. And just brown the butter first. I think that's what I did.
Yes.
And if you want to up the brown butter for like mashed potatoes or specifically noodles, crushed up crackers.
Oh, I would do breadcrumbs.
Or breadcrumbs. Yeah. I think actually breadcrumbs are better.
After you brown the butter, just throw those in.
Yeah, it makes like the best buttery topping.
You can make it like a paste kind of.
Yeah.
It's like, just keep adding breadcrumbs or crackers. What would you use? Ritz crackers, saltines?
Yeah, I have already. Ritz crackers. I don't do that a
Yeah.
lot because I'm like, oh, it's just adding carbs on carbs on carbs.
Yeah, because you're adding it on
But-
top of mac and cheese or potatoes.
Yeah, but it is so good.
it is really. Or I like to use it on green beans.
Yes.
So there you go, brown butter.
Yes, absolutely brown butter. We could talk about brown butter all
We could
day.
this could be a cooking show.
It could be. Oh, you had on your list self-segregation, which inspired me to say, I don't know exactly what you were thinking about when you wrote that, but segregated seating in churches. My church is very odd because I think originally it was segregated seating, and as time moved on, we don't sit segregated, except in the front, there is a segregated section. Like there's men, ladies, and then the back is mixed.
We're segregated gender-wise.
Oh, I guess that is an important distinction.
Yeah, it's not by age or anything. By women on the one side, men on the other.
Although in old order churches, they are segregated by age as well.
Oh, yes. The churches that we both came from originally, they would have like the little girls, all the little
Yep.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10-year-olds all sat together.
And then young married, and then youth on
Yeah.
the women's side, and then old ladies. It wasn't just like a regular sanctuary. There was benches kind of like pointing different ways.
Basically in a U around the pulpit. Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, so my church is unique because there's some people like my parents that do not want to sit together in church because that's not what they're used to.
Oh, they don't sit together
No,
to this day?
they do not sit together. And so there's a couple of those are that hardcore traditionalists that want to sit segregated. So they do that in the front of the church. And then the rest of the church is mixed.
Yeah.
And then on communion, which everyone always forgets, but communion, it is segregated, women on one side, men on the other. And I think that's because we
Wash
use
feet.
a common, that and the common cup.
Okay.
So I think we have one for women and one for men.
Oh, that's
So, like,
another weird thing.
you
guys
wouldn't
all
want-
drink out of the same cup,
Since-
even after COVID.
Well, since COVID, they have also little cups, so you can choose.
Okay, you guys are very accommodating at your church.
Yeah, we are. And I really love it. I think that's cool. And I don't really have strong opinions either way. But you wouldn't want to drink out of the man's cup because that's like kissing. No, I don't know. I don't know that
I
that's
always
why.
thought it was because then the women file out to wash their
It could
feet,
be.
and the men, yeah.
It could be for feet washing, but that's how we do it. And whatever, it's
We're speaking another language to some people here.
It's kind of
but
like a
communion
non-issue, but-
includes sharing bread, sharing wine, which we do grape juice, and washing each other's feet as a symbol of servanthood, like Jesus did.
yes.
So, yeah, segregated seating.
Yes.
When I said self-segregation, this was more of like a topic or a point that I would love to change. But I feel like, at least in Lancaster County area, there's so many Mennonites that we don't have to necessarily integrate ourselves among the rest of the world. And so we'll go grocery shopping and we'll go to Target and we won't even see the other people because they're not like we're not looking to make friends. We're not looking to have a conversation. We're just ready to go in there and get out again. Why would anybody want to talk to us? And why would we want to talk to them? And I don't like that attitude at all, really. And I've had different people say in my YouTube comments and stuff how they ran into Mennonites and not friendly. They like didn't even look at them and stuff. And yeah, I think it comes down to we were taught that we're part of God's kingdom first and then part of the rest of the world.
And on the other hand, if you see another Mennonite in the store, you can guarantee they're looking twice.
Yeah, for sure. But actually, that's also true. We don't really talk to the other Mennonites.
No, but we're going to look and see if we know them, see who they are. Especially if like, I do most of my shopping in Reading, so it's not quite like Effort at Walmart. Like, if I see a Mennonite, I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
I'll take a second look because it's not quite as common as in Lancaster
Anyway,
County.
I'm trying to swing the other way, and I try to be overly friendly. And if we make eye contact, I definitely will
Yeah.
smile. And like, I try to strike up conversations with the checkout lady if they want to. Sometimes they want to. Sometimes they don't. Like the one guy at Aldi, he always like asks about my day, and I'm like, wow. I'm sure it's a boring job swiping all these groceries. Let's have a little chat while he's sure didn't slow down while he's
No.
swiping, so he can definitely multitask. So yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just like, I want to make sure I'm aware that I can make friends outside of my own little bubble or just not be friendly at least.
One thing that I kind of thought of this because of Annie's Day of Light, and we're not getting into that today, but there's a book that we both read and love. I wouldn't have grown up with my dad like having devotions or like talking about his spiritual life at all. He would read a Bible story of my grandpa praying out loud for all his grandchildren, which I think is really special. But it's not something that like old order Mennonites talk about, but you can get into that, like if that's good or bad. And I think it can go both ways, but private spiritual lives, I think is...
It's basically between you and God, and yeah, but then they wouldn't talk about it or say what they're wrestling with. It was literally alone, them and their Bible, which could be a good thing. Sometimes we can have too many influences, too many good podcasts, sermons, opinions of others. So yeah.
Well, and then sometimes you wonder, well, do they really have a spiritual life?
Yes. Or like my dad, who like, I remember when he first started praying out loud when we started going to a new church, like it was so hard for him. It was so awkward for him at first. And now like he's used to it, you know, but he did not grow up with that. You always had silent prayer.
Yeah.
And you didn't want to be boastful or proud.
Silent prayer is a big thing.
I don't know if I feel like that has to be a Mennonite specific thing, but maybe not. Maybe there's other groups that would be that way too. Switching moods. Dutch Blitz. Have you guys ever played? I recently saw somebody in a vlog saying that they were playing this Dutch Blitz game with Amish pictures on the back or whatever. It's a super fun game, and it is Pennsylvania Dutch oriented. You would love it. It's super fast paced. We would play at the cabin all the time, and you can find it at the Mennonite Mall, good store in this area, and you can find it on Amazon. I will link it below. Super fun game. The rules are pretty straightforward. It's like a really fast version of the regular Skippo, if you ever played that. Super fun. You can play with teams. It gets loud. And yeah, you might have buggies on the back of your hand. Somebody else might have buckets or plows.
Yeah.
Let me know if you guys have played Dutch Blitz.
Another thing I have down is that Mennonites place a value on genealogy or family history, and we are known to play the Mennonite game.
Oh yeah, like if I introduced myself to anybody over the age of 50, I'll definitely tell them I'm Junior's daughter or whatever.
Yeah, when I meet your Uncle Leonard and remind him, or I'm Judy's daughter, and then he knows. But we want to identify people by their family history, and I think it's valuable. I think it's neat. We do have a goodly heritage, as it says in the Bible, and I think it's neat that we do place an emphasis on that.
Today's sponsor is right on topic. This time of year is all about vacations and family time, and I'm sure many of you, like my family, have been scouring the internet looking for short-term rentals for our summer trips. And I would like to suggest you visiting MennoniteYourWay.com for your upcoming vacation. Mennonite Your Way is a private platform for Mennonites and those of like-minded faith. You can rent or list anything from a cabin to a spare room in your house, maybe a gym or a parking spot for an RV. There are printed directories that you can purchase as well if you'd like a hard copy. Just go to the link in the description or here on the screen. That's MennoniteYourWay.com/HIH to see what's available near your next destination. Or, of course, you can list something of your own. Again, that's MennoniteYourWay.com/HIH. Something else I thought of was I almost grew up with the idea that dinosaurs were, like, bad. Like, yes. I would never have a cake with a dinosaur on it.
Yes.
Or, like, a dinosaur-themed anything. No. And I don't know why. I remember when I started teaching school as a second grade teacher, there was an old order Brethren lady, which is very Mennonite adjacent, and she got her first graders all fascinated and interested in dinosaurs. And I was like kind of surprised. They were singing a song about dinosaurs, and I think it stems from the fact that we would believe in a 7-day creation. Evolution is absolute bogus, blah, blah, blah. And so I don't know, did dinosaurs get lumped in with that?
I definitely thought dinosaurs were bad when I was a kid. And I think it was because of the whole creation versus evolution. And since a lot of the things that talk about dinosaurs also say millions and millions of years ago. And since we don't take part of the millions of years, we also just crossed off the dinosaurs. And now I think like since Ken Ham and the Creation Museum and we know more now, we can acknowledge that dinosaurs may have in fact existed, just not millions of years ago, and they're God's creation. They're not bad.
I wish I would have asked my great-grandmother while she was still alive if dinosaurs were real, because I wonder what she would have said. Obviously, my grandma knows dinosaurs are real, but like, was there a point in time where they thought that was just, lumped in with Darwinism and stuff?
Yeah, it would be interesting.
Anyway, so my little 2-year-old had a dinosaur-themed birthday cake the other year, and I was just like, how times have changed.
Yeah. So I have quilting or sewing circle quiltings on my list. Did we talk about that last time? I can't remember. But Eric likes to call them like gossip sessions, or actually I hardly ever go to sewing circle, but my church still has it. And quiltings are different though. I'm reading in my grandma's diary again, and they had quiltings like every week in the winter. It seemed like she was always going to a quilting, and they would quilt an entire quilt in like a day. they would get it out by like 2:30 or 3. And I just think that is so fascinating. And I can just picture, because I've been to quiltings when I was a kid, I can just picture all these old ladies sitting around a quilt and their tongues are moving.
But they weren't old. They did it
no,
when
they
were
weren't
our
old
age.
back then, but like it's kind of a dying thing. But let me tell you, their lips were moving as fast as their needles, which was fast.
Yeah.
But I just think now I want to make a quilt and I want to have a quilting, except none of my friends quilt.
Yeah. I personally, fidgety Megan here, love the idea of having a play date and having something to do with my hands when we sit there and talk. Now we just sit there and drink iced coffees and chase our 500 children around.
Right.
Which I don't think I would get much quilting done nowadays.
But their 500 children probably just played under the quilt.
Yeah,
and bopped at their legs, and I don't know.
Yeah,
Let's bring it back. But
well,
we don't have the skills.
I brought it back with the embroidery thing. I sit around and embroider, and people are like, "What in the world?" But it's nice to have something to do with your hands.
Right. They always had to be productive.
Yeah, I mean, they all had their sewing to do, so might as well get it done at the same time, right?
Yeah.
If we had mending, I should bring all my socks. I'm kidding. I don't mend socks. They go right in the trash.
Yeah, exactly.
Adventures in Odyssey was like a super big thing as a kid. I know that's not a Mennonite specific thing, but sound off down below if you were like an avid Adventures in Odyssey listener. Like Jayna and I would go so far as to memorize entire episodes and quote them back and forth to each other in our pathetic accents and funny voices and stuff.
Yeah, I loved it. It raised me.
I had a crush on Rusty, I think.
Rusty
Gordon.
Yeah.
Was he one of those bad kids?
Yeah,
Like the Bones of Wrath or something?
Yeah.
Anyway, we don't need to talk about that too long.
Oh,
It's a little bit niche.
Yeah. I just wanted to be Connie.
Oh, what simple times.
Yeah, for real. Okay. I don't know if this is Mennonite specific, but it is very conservative Mennonite to believe that the King James Bible is the ultimate or like best or only version that should be used, and it kind of bugs me.
I would almost disagree though. Like as Mennonites, yes, like that's the preferred version for a lot of Mennonites. We are not near. There's groups out there that if you don't read the King James Bible, they write you off completely. Basically, like you're a heathen or
so
something.
maybe it's not like Mennonites. Maybe there's just a few people in my church that think that. I don't know, but I just feel like they don't understand how translations work, and they've never looked into the other translations, and it's something that they've always been taught. And you hear so many scary things about other translations, and the King James version is just as biased as any of the other ones, if not more. And it's fine.
Look who King James was, and you'll understand.
Right, exactly. And I'll read the King James version, and again, like I was talking about in the last episode, I think the beauty of Scripture that the translations are, there's something not magical, but Scripture is inerrant, and a properly done translation will teach you the gospel, and that's really the most important thing. But it's just funny to me that some people have like King James, and I remember even my mom saying, "No, you're not learning the NIV. You're learning the King James. We learn the King James."
It is really nice though if everybody has one.
It is.
At our church, there's a lot of ESVers and a lot of KJVers and a few NIV. Anyway, and so when you're reading around in a circle, everybody read a verse. It's kind of hard to follow along because we all have a different version. But.
Yeah, and I think like especially for memorizing too, it's nice if you're gonna memorize the one that your children are gonna hear in church or whatever. So sure, it's just yeah.
Something else that's really weird, and I just realized that this is something that is kind of weird how I grew up, but I recently had my 4th baby, and I'm not like hardcore trying to get the baby weight off because I am breastfeeding, and so as soon as I try to really work out hard and stuff, my milk will tank. So I'm not like hardcore yet, but I did get a gym membership again, and I feel like working out is not a Mennonite thing. I almost feel ashamed that I have to do it. Like, oh my word, she would just be like fat if she didn't work out, or like, why can't you just be naturally thin with, it's like almost a weird thought or something. Like I feel almost a little bit ashamed that I have to go work out. Not our generation as much, but like you would never have caught our mothers wasting time at a gym.
Oh, my mom lived at the gym.
Oh, she did. That's right. Your mom.
But it was a women's only gym.
Okay. Yeah, but she was very, like, did she have a lot of peers that worked out?
She did, but I get what you're saying. And I think comes from the fact that we don't want to put an emphasis on our bodies.
Yeah, and just like what a waste of time. Like I
Or
could just
selfish.
hear my grandmother laughing like, "Ha! So you're gonna go to the gym so you can sweat?" Like that's why we pull weeds, and that like they worked really hard back then, and so it was just not really a thing. And so as we've come away from that manual labor a little bit more, I feel, working out is definitely becoming more of a thing now. It'd be great if you could just be naturally fit without any, wasting money and time at the gym. Goodness.
Right. It's probably just, if anything, viewed as selfish or unnecessary. I don't know.
Maybe unnecessary. Yeah. I don't know. But yeah, it's not something like I would say I mean, at least what it seems like the rest of the world. Like if you're a gym goer, you're going pretty much every day or every other day, and that's just not near as. It's definitely a thing, but not near as big of a thing, I think, as the rest
It's
of the
not
world.
expected. I feel like if you're a Mennonite and you go to the gym, you're probably not the norm.
You're more of an exception than the rule, yeah.
Yeah. So I think that Mennonites are traditionally just a couple years behind the trends.
Oh, of course.
Which is pretty
snowed
obvious.
in.
But like,
Hello.
we're scared of the trends at first, and then we see them long enough that they become the norm, and then we'll start to adapt them, and then
for good or bad.
Yeah, and then like they're gone, and we're just a couple years behind. We'll eventually do it. We say we won't, but we eventually will.
And can't wait to hear what you're going to say about.
By that time, they're not trendy anymore. I wasn't going to say anything else.
That's it. Not any specific things.
Did you want me to talk about the middle part?
I was just going to bring it up. That was like the elephant in the room, the middle part.
I noticed you do have a middle part. It looks nice.
Oh, do I tonight? And I part my hair in a different spot every day because I like to have body in it.
And you always have done that. Before the middle part was trendy, I remember you switching up your parts.
Yeah, just because I don't have, like, my hair's not super thick, and I read somewhere that if you comb your hair the same way all the time, it looks flat.
That's true. Yeah. The church that I grew up in, it was a requirement. That's actually, fun fact, one of the reasons my parents left that church is because my mom was not willing to part her hair in the middle, and they were making that a test of membership, that you had to part your hair in the middle to be a member of the church, and they wanted her to make a confession. But now middle parts are in style, they're trendy now, so I'm like, are you going to change your rules? Because now you're trendy. Now they've adopted the middle part as their culture. And that is fine. They can do that. They have every right to make a requirement of their members in order to be a member of the church. They can make them do whatever they want. That's fine. If you go to that church and they're asking you to part your hair in the middle, then you part your hair in the middle, or you go to a different church. Now, the problem is if they're saying you can't be a Christian without parting your hair in the middle, or you aren't following the Bible if you don't part your hair in the middle. And I don't really remember how they worded it or what they said, but the bottom line is, if my mom wasn't willing to part her hair in the middle, then she couldn't go to that church.
Yeah,
and that's
I mean, it sounds bizarre, but think about all the different clubs and groups out there and
right.
the things they make you wear, like the Red Hat Society.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with enforcing a tradition or a culture, as long as you are acknowledging that it's a tradition or a culture and not something that's going to save you.
And as long as you willingly signed up for the set of rules and guidelines.
Right.
But yes, the whole middle part thing, I think it came from the place of back in the day, everybody had the crazy hats and the crazy hairdos, and they're like, okay, we're going to comb our hair very simply. Let's just part it down the middle.
Yeah.
And then it became like, it must be parted down the middle. But yes, I think your whole point was trends.
Yes. Yeah, like we'll eventually adopt them or try to adopt them if our church allows, but we're going to be behind. We're not going to be like, oh, I saw that in Vogue. We're going to do it immediately.
Something that I was just curious, I'm talking about this for my own selfish benefits. I want to know if you guys have ever heard of the Martyr's Mirror. It's not about Mennonites, but it's about the Anabaptists and the people, how they were treated, how our ancestors were treated over in Europe for following the Bible and for being rebaptized, for not being part of the state church. And basically it was like treason, and they were killed and mutilated in horrible ways. I've never read it. I don't plan to read it. My spirit is not a sensitive person, but I am in that way.
Is the Martyr's Mirror all Anabaptist, or is it like Protestant?
Well, back in the day, it was the same.
Well,
wasn't it? Like basically people that didn't follow the state.
Anabaptists
church.
are Protestants, but not all Protestants are Anabaptists.
Yeah.
So is it exclusively Anabaptists, or is it anyone that like rebelled against the church?
I guess I need to read it.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I never read it either.
Lots of our ancestors would be in there and stuff too, and it's just like basically it's next to the Bible in like popularity of books that people would have in their home like back in the day.
But does anyone actually read it?
I don't know. I'd like to know, because it's amazing what people went through for their faith, and I probably should read it, but it's just very dark.
I do think I want to find some of that, or it would be a good thing to find some of those stories that are maybe not the most gruesome or the most graphic, but to tell our children these stories in a way that's age appropriate for them, because those were real life people that went through real life things. And
it wasn't actually just Anabaptist, because like Polycarp was in there, I believe, and that was in like the year 300 or 500 or something. So it's just Christ followers. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. Is that a Protestant thing that like, do they read the Martyr's Mirror, or is that a specifically Anabaptist thing? I don't know. But let's lighten the mood a little bit. Something else I wanted to bring up was Sunday roasts, Sunday lunches. I know over in England they have roasts, which I don't know what those are. I should look it up. They have like a meal. But yeah, Sunday lunch was traditionally like a roast beef, potatoes, and a vegetable, some homemade bread.
Yes.
Oh, lovely. I wish I have not adopted that into my home because I like to have a day of rest on Sundays. We do like leftovers, breakfast for lunch, meat in the crock pot. Josh will grill sometimes, but like more simple things. But yeah, I just remember walking in the door as a kid and smelling that roast beef and knowing you're just about to have the best meal of the week.
Amen.
Should be in our religion, right?
I put a roast beef in the crock pot some Sundays. It's actually pretty easy, but then the problem is like the sides that go with it. Instead of making mashed potatoes, I'll just throw the potatoes in the crock pot and we'll have baked potatoes.
You see, yeah, Josh won't let me put the carrots and potatoes in with the meat. He thinks it's disgusting.
Oh,
and
I do it anyway.
My mom stopped doing that too. She thinks it's disgusting now. But I grew up with it all getting thrown in together, blood and all. I mean, is it blood or juice or whatever's coming out of that roast? Yeah. I don't know. We'll do our roasts like a Thursday night or something random. Ivani calls them feasts. She's like, can we light the candles? This is a feast. We'll have like a fancy drink or something. Anything sparkling is considered fancy. Do you want to talk about deer spotting? Is that a redneck thing or a Mennonite thing?
I don't think it's a Mennonite thing. I think it's a redneck thing.
Okay, what deer spotting was huge when I was in the youth group. Like,
it was like an activity.
Is it just because we wanted to snuggle with our boyfriends under the blankets? I don't know.
It was always exciting though. Like you drove on all the back roads in the back of a pickup truck.
Oh, it's just like, wholesome and fun.
Yeah.
I wasn't doing much snuggling, whatever. But yeah, it was fun to, just drive around the roads and see those glittering eyeballs looking back at you.
Yeah, good times.
Do you think not finding out the gender of your baby, like the Mennonites, there's a lot more Mennonites that didn't do that. I think it's one of those trend things, like we didn't adopt very quickly. I
think so too.
It's like your whole family. It's like a rule. If you want to be a Burke holder, thou shalt not find out the gender.
It's not really a rule, but my parents have really strong feelings about it that they do not want to know. So most of us have. I think we've all respected that so far. Not necessarily just because of their opinions. Yeah. I mean, we kind of agreed. At least we did. But yeah, it's kind of a thing.
Well, it just goes back to Mennonites being late adopters of trends. Yeah. Like, oh, now we can find out the gender. Well, why would you need to find out the gender?
I think it also comes back to like something new. We automatically fear anything new. Like
it's like ingrained in us.
Yeah, like we're wary of it.
It's probably bad.
It's probably the mark of the beast. No. Like new technology or like anything new, we need to sit back and analyze it first.
Which is not a bad thing.
And when we talk about Annie's Day of Light, we'll talk about that when we talk about the church split over automobiles. But yeah, we tend to fear something new because it's unknown. And I think there's some good to that. Now, not when it comes to finding out the gender of your baby. That's neither right nor wrong. But our automatic response is, wait a second.
Why?
Yeah.
Well, it hasn't been that way before.
Yeah.
Why do we need to change it now?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, man. Very good. Well, hopefully you found this fascinating. It was a fun talk, fun chatting. Let me know something. If I know Mennonite is not the only culture in the U.S. Good grief. You guys are from all different walks of life. Let us know something that's particular to your region or culture. I'd love to hear, and we can all kind of look and see, wait, I do that. Oh, wait, you do that too. Like we said, it might not be all Mennonitisms. Maybe it's Pennsylvania things or whatever. Yeah. So anyway, thanks for being here.
And we'll see you in the next one.
Bye.